All right, we are live, I do believe. We are live. Another live stream, Square and Compass podcast. Hope everybody is doing well. Normally, I do these streams every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, because I am traveling, I am doing this stream at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because I'm back home in Winnipeg. So I had a great morning, by the way. Went to Robertson College and got some physiotherapy or some massages, which were awesome. So thank you to Robertson College here in Winnipeg. And with that, we're just going to give it a few minutes. We're going to see who jumps on, who says hello. Today, I figured we would talk about sacred geometry, hence the quote, "Let no one who's ignorant of geometry enter here." But usually it takes a few minutes, 30 minutes to an hour for people to really start showing up. So I'm going to give it a bit of time, see who arrives, who shows up, and we'll go from there. Today I've got there we go. Sorry, today I've got a stream, or not a stream. I've got a meeting tonight here in Winnipeg, which I can't wait to go to at Windsor Masonic Temple. That'll be a lot of fun. Going for a couple of first degrees. So I'm sure the candidates are as excited as I am. In the meantime, though, just give it a bit of time, see who joins us. If you are just joining us, hit that like and subscribe button. No rush. We'll give it a bit of time, see who joins, and maybe today let's talk about sacred geometry. Next week, I plan to start these streams once again at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With a couple exceptions, next week, Wednesday, April 2nd, I've got something going on during the afternoon, so I may need to change the time. But I will keep everybody informed. Just follow me on social media so you see what they are and when we change them and all that good stuff. All right, so I'm just going to give it a bit of time and see who joins us. I enjoyed our stream yesterday quite a bit. It was a lot of fun. And if you're just jumping on, as always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, jump in the chat, say hello. Let me know what you want to talk about. And as I was saying, the first half hour to an hour is just us hanging out, waiting to see who joins the chat and what they want to talk about. And then I switch over to specific topics about 45 minutes to an hour. And today's specific topic will likely be sacred geometry. But having said that, if there are topics that people want to see covered beforehand, let me know what they are, and I'm happy to delve into those as well. We talk about Freemasonry. All opinions are my own. I speak for no one but myself, but that doesn't mean, and the beautiful thing is sometimes even during a chat, I'll learn something I didn't know before, which I always appreciate the opportunity to learn something brand new. So let's give it a bit of time and see who jumps on. And as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Geometry pi are round, not squared. Well, pies are, you can have square pies, I'm sure. But yes, technically they are round, which is very, very true. I am, in the meantime, working on a few more interviews as well. So I'm getting ready for those. And plus, appearing on another interview podcast with Cora from Black Raven Meditation. So that'll be a lot of fun as well. If you haven't got a chance to yet, I hope that you'll check out my interview I did with her on one of my long-form podcasts. In the meantime, let's give it a little bit more time, see who jumps on. And then, as I was saying, I think today we'll focus on and talk about sacred geometry, which as Masons, I think we should always care about. We should care about everything, but I think sacred geometry or geometry in general, for obvious reasons, should be important to every Freemason, if no other reason than as a way to respect our Masonic stonemason forefathers or ancestors, if you will. Interestingly enough, a couple of days ago, it was the International Day of Happiness, and today I received an email from Classical Wisdom about whether or not Aristotle was right about happiness, which is a good point in and of itself. How do we define happiness? Which I think is worth probably more exploration than we give it very often. But we'll just give it a little bit more time, see who else joins us. It's going to be a shorter live stream than usual because I do have to, like I said, I got a couple of first degrees tonight, which I'm very much looking forward to. So that'll be a lot of fun here in Windsor, in Winnipeg. Anytime I get the chance to travel, and as part of that travel, get the chance to take part in degrees, that's always really special. So we're also 3 days into an election here in Canada. So let me know if you're planning to vote. All right, just giving it a bit of time, see who joins us, jumps in the chat to say hello. Usually it takes about 30 minutes to 45 minutes for the majority of people to show up or people to start showing up. And then I will start on today's subject, which is on the idea of sacred geometry, the Fibonacci sequence, all that good stuff. But that doesn't mean I can't pivot. If there's something people in the chat want to talk about, then by all means, jump in the chat. Let me know anything related to Freemasonry. I'd love to know what you want to talk about. Maybe in a few minutes, we'll just sneeze. I will see about start maybe sharing this on a few social media sites. Invite some people out to join the chat. Welcome. Let me know. Actually, maybe I'll do a poll question just for fun. See who joins us in the chat. See in a couple minutes. Let me just see if I can get this thing set up correctly. Well, that's a nice picture of me on the live stream I just saw. All right. Oops. Let me try this. Let's see. Try this one more time. All right, we'll give it a few minutes. We'll see who anybody wants to jump in and answer this poll question. In the meantime, just waiting for people to join us in the chat. I said 30 minutes to 45 minutes in, I'll start on the actual topic of discussion. Oh, we got one vote already. That was a quick vote as well. One vote for engraved at the door, Plato's Academy. I'm going to give this maybe 45 minutes. High Altitude Investing. Love the title. Thank you, High Altitude Investing. Welcome. I hope that you are doing well. I'm not sure if you were the person who did the vote, but if so, you're the first vote so far. Well, I just saw the thumbnail for my live stream. It's not a good picture of me. We got 2 votes. We got 3 votes, it looks like, all for engraved. So let's give it a little bit more time. Awesome. And by the way, High Altitude, I really loved on your other channel, your interview with Core. That was cool. It's neat that you guys kind of connected. I think you're connected through this stream, right? So that was very cool. How is any other episodes you've got coming out that you're excited about, or any other podcasts you have on your Wisdom in Christ Foundation channel? And everybody, if you get the chance, make sure to check it out. All right, 3 votes. What is the origin of the phrase, let no one ignorant of geometry enter? Doing a podcast on Thursday, still looking for my next guest. Enjoyed the interview with Core. It was great. Yeah, and I like Core a lot. She's really cool people. I'm actually doing an interview with her for her podcast, Black Room Meditation. So I'm excited for that one. Recording it April 1st. So an April Fool's joke, recording it April 1st. Yeah, I'm so happy that you guys connected. And I think that is one of the much more fun parts of this stream, is connecting different people together. And something I really enjoy doing with I mean, that's kind of, it's an interesting metaphor for Freemasonry in general as well, right? The idea of you have a lodge bringing people together from different backgrounds who have different pieces of knowledge that they can then share with the lodge and each other. It's kind of similar to this here, right? It's like we have different people coming together and able to share their knowledge with each other. So that is something I'm very, very happy about. I am here in Winnipeg one more day. I leave tomorrow after my dual first degrees tonight at Windsor Masonic Temple. And then on the weekend, I'm in Chicago. So we're going to see some more changes with our live stream schedule, but just keep checking our social media and our YouTube, et cetera, to know what exactly we've got going on. And you can always, by the way, check out our YouTube channel posts where we've got our different questions, our different polls, our quizzes. We even asked the question, do you eat Masonic Fraternity before or after lodge meetings? 8 votes, 4 before, 3 both before and after, and 1 after. So that's kind of interesting just to see. Again, it's a good way for me to gather information about Freemasonry and how things are going in Masonic circles, which is something I really appreciate. All right, let's give it a bit more time. Let's just see who jumps on and who says hello. Like I said, the 30-minute to an hour mark is when I start talking about the particular subject, and today's subject is going to be about sacred geometry. And, you know, hence the origin of the phrase, let no one ignorant geometry entry. What do you think about geometry being so consistent throughout all of life, like the Fibonacci spiral found on seashells, galaxy spirals, weather patterns, flowers? William Dibley is on the chat. Hey, William, how's it going? I am doing well. I hope that you're doing well as well. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Please don't forget, hit that like button, William. Congratulations, William, as you posted on social media. You just made it to your 11-year anniversary, so you should be very proud. And thank you so much for joining. 11-year anniversary of being in professional wrestling. What do I think of geometry being so consistent throughout all of life, like the Fibonacci sequence found on seashells, galaxy spirals, weather patterns, flowers, and etc.? Well, I think it connects to this idea of, and that is truly appreciated. William, thank you so much. Vote on the poll question as well. Let me know what you think. If you have any thoughts as to what the answer could be, let me know. Answer the poll question. Thank you for being here. I think how to investing, it shows that there is a consistency and an order to the universe, and that human beings are smart enough to be able to put language to that order. I mean, it's no different than, you know, pi, the ratio of a circumference to diameter, or, you know, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It's a way to demonstrate and show that there is an order. And I think what's so fascinating about that from a Masonic perspective is, you know, when Freemasons talk about why geometric patterns are so valuable, geometry is the basis of our art. In a lot of ways, what they're saying is geometry is the basis of life, or at least the basis of an ordered universe. I mean, you still see that even with something like the Euclid space mission, where you've got NASA sending up the Euclid space probe, I guess ESA, European Space Agency, setting up a space probe in 2023 that is named after a Greek father of geometry who lived in 300 BC. So it goes to show that these geometric principles, geometric ideas are universal, and that there is an order to the universe. Some would call it a supreme being. The famous example of, the Einstein understanding of what God is, which is kind of the mathematics that govern the universe. So I think the fact that it's so consistent just shows that the universe, it is possible and capable to understand the universe through geometry and through mathematics and through concepts of that nature. Almost like, you can understand a building by having an understanding of geometric principles. You can understand the universe in the same way, maybe showing that there is, in fact, as Masons might say, a great architect out there doing some building for us. Who knows? I hope that answered your question, how to investing. If you're just joining us, welcome. Please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Answer a poll question. I'll give you the answer about 45 minutes into this stream, so about 25 more minutes. What is the origin of the phrase, "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter"? Let me know if you know where it comes from. Thank you, How to Investing, for that. I truly appreciate your answer, as well as the thought-provoking questions. Great to have Will join us. I do appreciate that as well. If you're just joining us for the first time, it's not too late. Jump in the chat, say hello, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, etc., etc. And what do I think about the Hermetic principle, as above, so below? It's interesting, because that was a film as well. It was a horror film where they were in Paris, I guess, in the catacombs of Paris. I don't know, other than I like the movie, I don't know a ton about the phrase, like its origins or a lot of where it comes from. Right? I think what it's supposed to refer to, so it's translated from Latin. I mean, I take it to mean that you cannot actually separate the quote unquote like heavens from the earth, in that it's all the same kind of physics. This is how I always interpret it. The same physics, the same rules, right? Like, there used to be, I think, this idea in science that you had what happens on Earth and you had what happens in the sky, and you couldn't, like, here on Earth, you couldn't predict what would happen up in the sky. But you actually realize it's all the same or consistent, is I think how I interpret it. I understand, like I said, it's a translation from Latin. I think a lot of times there's a more religious connotations to it. The idea of, as God says above, so things happen below. You could also take it to mean kind of the effect of the sun. So, for example, the effect of the moon on the tides, the thing that what happens in the heavens affects us here on Earth, and they're not separate, I think. But I don't know a ton about the phrase, other than it's originally in Latin, I think, translated from, I forget when, the 9th century, 8th or 9th century. And Google, if you type "as above, so below" Fibonacci spirals, you will see some really cool pictures. That is a great perspective and interpretation. I'm sure we could see some amazing pictures. I mean, the Fibonacci sequence in general has some really incredible images, right? The golden ratio. Images. Yeah, so there's the spiral galaxies, and then there's the clamshells, and then there's the fingerprints. It is interesting how you see so many parallels between that which is in the sky above us, that which is with us here on earth, and even that which we cannot see because it's so microscopic. If I recall correctly, the Fibonacci sequence, right? It goes what? 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. After that, I can't go any further. It's like one big mathematical fractal. Yes, it's a good way to look at it. I think probably fractals are probably everywhere when it comes to geometry, right? Geometric principles. Even, the way flowers grow is kind of geometrically set up that way. By the way, welcome. If you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've had some people come in and out of the chat, so I always appreciate if we have anybody joining us. Thank you so much for being here. This stream, I do this stream every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. This stream is happening later than usual because I am traveling right now. I had the absolute pleasure to be here in Winnipeg. I went and got some massages from Robertson College Occupational Therapy Department, or Massage Therapy Department, which was really, really incredible. And then I had lunch at VJ's, VJ''S, a Winnipeg institution, and something, if you ever are traveling to Winnipeg, you should eat there because it is delicious and well worth a trip. And if you haven't ever been to Winnipeg before, what are you waiting for? Come to Winnipeg. There's so many cool things to check out. There's Fort White Nature Center. There's VJ's. There's the Forks. And heck, it's now spring again, so you won't freeze to death if you come visit Winnipeg. So now's your chance. Come visit us here in this beautiful city. Come visit Transcona. It's where I grew up, born and raised. Thank you, by the way. If you are hitting that like button, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Answer a poll question. What is the origin of the phrase, let no one of geometry enter? Is it the motto at Harvard, an intro to textbooks, engraved at the door of Plato's Academy, or a religious exclamation? Let me know what you're thinking it is. And as always, let me know how you're doing and what it is that you want to talk about. The first 30 minutes to an hour of these, we usually spend just chatting, waiting to see who jumps on and any questions or thoughts or comments they have about Freemasonry, positive, negative, neutral. But then we switch it over and we talk about specific topics, such as, in this case, it's going to be sacred geometry. By the way, how to investing, I'm still $5 poor when it comes to my Bitcoin. Like I said, I invested $70. I am now $65. So, but I think it feels like it's coming back. I think I gained like 10 cents or something. Just wanted to share this YouTube video. It might be the best one I've ever watched in the Internet Interview of Canada. Thank you, Brad. But unfortunately, usually they don't let you share links on this chat, on the chat. But if you want to share it, maybe what you can do is I know David Cameron. He's a very smart man. He has a great last name. Go to this link here, and you can leave the link as a comment. Yeah, he just did an interview, right, on the mysteries of the craft, part of I can't think of Rubicon Society, if I'm not mistaken, right? So yeah, I saw that as well. So Let's see if it's still there. No worries. Do your video, and everybody who's watching this now, by all means, you don't have to stick around. You can also check out How to Investing. He does live streams as well as, post every week. So check out his stuff. Here it is, The Mysteries of Freemasonry. No worries. No, there's a small time delay. It gives a chance for the stream to moderate itself. I will, just so I don't forget, I will hit the like button. Oops. On that video. And thank you for sharing. By the way, Brad, did you vote on our poll question? If you haven't yet, please make sure to vote. What is the origin of the phrase, let no one ignorant of geometry enter? Let me know where you think that phrase came from. Once I start with this actual discussion, I will give you guys the answer before I continue. Like I said, we do have a second degree today or first degree, 2 first degrees actually tonight. So I'll be traveling to that. So I'm not going to do the stream perhaps for as long as usual. I just want to give it a bit of time for people to jump on and say hello. And yeah, David J. Cameron does some really great stuff. So we, as always, appreciate his work, past Grand Master here in Ontario. And great last name. All right, just getting a bit more time, seeing who jumps on the chat to say hello. Anybody else who answers our poll questions, etc., all that good stuff. Going to give it a bit of time. Usually takes between half an hour and an hour for the majority of people to start showing up. Oh, by the how to investing, it should bounce back your Bitcoin. It's great. There's no rush at all. Like I said, I did it more for fun, the investment. So we'll see how it goes. In the meantime, if you guys follow politics, it's been quite an interesting time in the States with the whole group chat text. All right, I think we're back. Sorry about that. If anybody lost me, I don't know what happened there, but it seemed like the stream went out for a second, but I think we're back. I hope so. Anyways, let me just hit welcome. If I am back and you guys can see me once again, drop a few of these heart reactions in there, so I know you guys can see me. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why we got lost there for a second, but we came back. Interesting. 4 votes. What is the origin of the phrase, let no one ignorant of geometry enter? 1 saying the motto at Harvard. The other 3 saying engraved at the door of Plato's Academy. So 3-1 right now. So let's give it a few more minutes and see if anybody else jumps on before we switch over to the main topic, which is sacred geometry. But as always, at any given point, if anybody wants to talk about anything, I would love to hear more about what you guys want to talk about, because obviously we don't have to just talk about what I want to talk about. The really beautiful thing about these streams is I'm always happy to talk about whatever people in the chat want to chat about. That's kind of the fun part, and the best part about the chat is it gets me interactive and I can learn more about what you guys want to talk about. Courtney is in. Howdy, Courtney. I hope that you are doing well, as always. I'm sure you are doing great, and it's great to have you. Howdy from Texas, indeed. We had High Altitude Investing on a while ago, but he is currently recording a video of his own. And I encourage everybody in this chat, if you get the chance, to check out his chat or his stream, High Altitude Investing and Wisdom in Christ Foundation. Both are excellent channels. I was actually a podcast guest on the Wisdom in Christ Foundation. So that was a lot of fun being part of that podcast. So is our friend Core from Black River Meditation, who's been on here a few times. Oh, 5 votes. What is the origin of the phrase, let no one ignorant of geometry enter? The motto at Harvard, 20%. Intro to textbooks, 0%. Engraved at the door of Players Academy, 60%. A religious exclamation, 20%. So 3 for engraved at the door, 1 for motto at Harvard, 1 for religious exclamation. And thank you to everybody who has joined. As always, please hit that like and subscribe button. Let's give it exactly 2 more minutes, and then we will, or when I say exactly, let's give it approximately 2 more minutes, then we can start on the main subject. There's nothing else. I have to still get ready for tonight's double degree, including double first degree, including I had to get shaved at some point. And also what I need to do, though, before I do anything else, is grab some water. I will be right back. I don't have my Mason the Moose to watch the chat for me, so I'm just going to trust you guys not to do anything crazy. I'll be back in a second. Going to grab some water. And I'm back. Core. Hi, everyone. Hi, Core. I hope that you are doing well. High Altitude was just on actually a couple of minutes ago, and then had to go record his videos. And I'm looking forward to being on your channel. I know we got the interview set. I'm not sure how long after we do the interview or record the interview it'll be posted, but once it is, I will make sure to share it. I agree. Geometry, definitely. Let's go. I think geometry is one of those things that, certainly from a Masonic perspective, it's important that we pay attention to and care about and know about. But I think that's true for everybody to a certain extent. I mean, lifelong learning in general is important for everybody to know about and pay attention to, in my humble opinion. And let me know if the stream ever starts to cut out again. It did cut out for a little while, but it seems like the stream is a lot better now. So hopefully it stays that way. And as always, hit like, hit subscribe, etc., etc. All right. By the way, in case anybody is curious, the correct answer. I don't know how much wisdom I have, though I appreciate that, Core. But having said that, I am excited to be on the channel as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to it also. In case anybody hasn't voted yet, I'll give you the spoilers. The origin of the phrase, "let no one ignorant of geometry enter," tradition holds that it was engraved at the door of Plato's academy. Whether it was or not, we don't actually know, because first of all, we can't build a time machine to go back in time and check, but also it appears that was never reported by any contemporary sources. It was reported actually by later sources. I think in like the 14th century. So whether you kind of got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, I suppose. But whether it's true or not, or whether it's apocryphal, I should say, apocryphal, it still, I think, gets to an important element of the universe and the consistency between Captain the Dog. Welcome, Captain the Dog, once again. It's great to have you join us. I hope you're doing well. I don't know if you got the chance to do the vote before I gave the answer, but you can let me know maybe in the chat if you knew the answer to the poll question, what the origin of the phrase "that no one ignorant geometry enter." And please, as always, Captain, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing, and as always, what it is that you want to chat about. We're going to talk today about sacred geometry, hence the title of this live stream, "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter," that supposedly or reportedly comes from an engraving that was above the door of Plato's academy, or otherwise known as the Academy. Founded in Athens by Plato in 387 BC. It was kind of known as the first Western institution of higher education. Its probably most famous student was Aristotle. So obviously the fact that Plato and Aristotle felt that geometry was such an important part of their education, so much so they put, again, at least traditionally, historically, apocryphally, "let no one ignorant geometry enter here." I think should say some importance of how they and others found geometry. Geometry is defined as a branch of mathematics concerned with the shape of individual objects, spatial relationships among the very objects, and the properties of surrounding space. It is one of the oldest branches of mathematics, having arisen in response to such practical problems as those found in building objects, cutting stones. How do you make sure that the stones that you cut are square? How do you make sure you stack stones in such a way that they are not only square, but also strong? Your angles are strong, that your building is not going to fall down. In fact, geometry and stonemasonry were often synonymous with each other. Geometry actually comes from Greek words meaning earth, measurement. And one of the coolest parts of geometry later on, and this again does apply to Freemason in the sense of what geometry means, is for the longest time, it was realized geometry needed to be, at first, geometry was kind of the study of flat surfaces, right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared works on flat surfaces, for example. Most of Euclid's problems work for flat spaces, or otherwise known as plane geometry, or rigid three-dimensional objects such as solid geometry. The earliest kind of examples of branch geometry would be Euclidean geometry, which is an early form of geometry suited to the relationship between lengths, areas, and volumes of physical elements. This geometry was codified in Euclid's Elements around 300 BC on the basis of 10 axioms or postulates, from which several hundred theorems were proved by deductive logic. The Elements epitomized the axiomatic deductive method for many centuries. And in case you're curious, as to what they are, there were, again, 7 axioms. Or sorry, no, there are 5 axioms. To draw a straight line from any point to any point, to produce a finite straight line continuously in a straight line, to describe a circle with any center distance at all right angles are equal to one another. If a straight line falling on 2 straight lines makes the interior angles on the same side less than 2 right angles, the 2 straight lines, if produced indefinitely, meet on that side on which the angles are less than 2 right angles. The Elements also included 5 common notions. Things that are equal to the same thing are also equal to one another, otherwise known as the transitive property. If equals are added to equals, then the wholes are equal. If equals are subtracted from equals, then the differences are equal. Things that coincide with one another are equal to one another. The reflective property, the whole is greater than the part. So one thing I wanted to bring up in this discussion, in Freemasonry, we often talk about the idea of studying geometry not so much for the actual mathematical properties, but rather as a way to gain a better understanding of the universe. Or not of the universe, sorry, of ourselves in the universe and the moral qualities of the universe. We can apply geometric principles to questions of morality. And so one example of that you see often is you will see Freemasons talking about a square deal, for example, right? Or acting with people on the level, or square conduct. All of that is an example of geometric ideas applying to moral behavior and moral characters. However, you see, I think the best example of this that I've ever seen was actually in the movie Lincoln. Let's see if I can find. So in the movie Lincoln, which came out, I think in like 2015, I think it was. I'm going to check with my friends at Wikipedia. Oh, 2012. Way earlier than I thought. Anyways, so there's this scene in which Lincoln is trying to decide whether a delegation from the Confederacy on its way toward Washington with the intent of suing for peace should be invited to meet with him. Lincoln goes down to the telegraph room from which he would have to send the messages about whether the delegation should be given safe passage into the city. There he talks at first with the young telegraph operators about his beloved geometer. Euclid's first common notion is this: things which are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. That's a rule of mathematical reasoning. It's true because it works, has done, and always will do. In his book, Euclid says this is self-evident. You see, there it is, even in that 2,000-year-old book of mechanical law. It's a self-evident truth that things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Lincoln is reminding himself, the movie suggests, that the same thing that both white and black people are equal to is our common humanity. My suspicion is actually he was thinking about God in whatever form you want to call that. Immediately after this, Lincoln dictates a message instructing that the delegation will not be admitted into Union territory. The war will continue until the truth of human equality is upheld by the Union victory. So that is an example, in my opinion, of an geometric principle being used and applied to moral conduct. In this case, the conduct as to whether or not to continue fighting for the equality amongst, in that case, white and black people, or just all people. Right? There's actually, which I'm going to be looking for, a book, How an Ancient Mathematician Shaped American Politics, or a statesmanship thesis showing how the methods of an ancient mathematician shaped our founding document and the history that followed. To write his thesis, Self-Evident Government, the Impact of Euclid on Jefferson and Lincoln's Political Thought, Doty examined methods of a Greek thinker in the 3rd century BC. Euclid established the basic principles of geometry using an airtight logic that mathematicians prior to him had not yet achieved. Euclid showed how to demonstrate with certainty that certain geometric principles are true, Doty explains. Mathematicians before Euclid had discovered such facts as that the 3 angles of a triangle add up 180 degrees. But Euclid proved these discoveries using a powerful method. Before offering a proposition, he defined what each word in it means, what is a point, what is a line, and so on, in a clear and concise manner. He also outlined 5 axioms or common notions whose truth is self-evident, to establish the ground rules for the propositions he would prove. Because it demonstrated a logical process, Euclid's Elements is still widely studied 2 millennia later. Doty argues that Jefferson would have mastered Euclid's proof when studied at the College of William and Mary. Speaking later about the formation of his political and ethical ideas, Jefferson would credit his math professor, William Small, for guiding his thinking. Small combined ethics, philosophy, and other branches of science into mathematics so that every aspect of life could be described with logic of math, Doty argues. So again, we see this idea that geometric principles can be applied not only to solving math problems, but solving moral dilemmas and finding a moral way to live. At least it did for Thomas Jefferson, which helped cause him to structure the Declaration of Independence as one would a Euclidean proof, using its 6-point structure of enunciation, exposition, specification, construction, demonstration, and conclusion. Lincoln, who had to teach himself what Jefferson learned from tutors and professors, studied Euclid's work while riding circuit as a lawyer. After others who traveled with had gone to bed, Lincoln studied by candlelight, learning how to prove all of Euclid's theorems. Lincoln recognized that Jefferson had used Euclidean language in the Declaration of Independence, identifying the principle that gave rise to the American independence as self-evident truths. Doty argues that Lincoln used a Euclidean strategy when he worked out his ideas about whether a constitution admitted or supported the persistence of slavery in the nation. He would admit his frustrations that ideas considered axioms of free society in Jefferson's time had ceased to hold status of the public mind. Hence, Lincoln's task was to enlighten listeners to the self-evidence of what was now considered a proposition an unproven statement, that all men are created equal. The idea that Lincoln's thinking was influenced by Euclid is not a new one, but it was a new idea to some students when they were casting about a different topics. One study, Abraham Lincoln and the structure of reason. Was provided a thesis, helped others see mathematical precision is a skill important to political persuasion as well as moral decision making, I would argue. At the time Lincoln, so again, going back, I just want to go through this one more time because I think it's so important. You have this scene in this movie where Lincoln is trying to decide whether a delegation from the Confederacy on its way towards Washington with the intent of suing for peace should be invited to meet with him. The reason this is important is because if he allows the delegation to meet with him, then that could put a stop to the Civil War, but it would do so while allowing slavery to continue to exist in the Confederacy. So if he allows the delegation to meet with him, that could end the war, but it would do so at the cost of continuing slavery. If he doesn't allow the delegation to meet with him, the war will continue, but when it does end, or when it does end, it will end slavery in North America. So he has to decide whether to allow the delegation or not to proceed. He goes down to the telegraph room to send his message, from which he would have to send a message about whether the delegation should be given safe passage to the city. There he talks at first with the young telegraph operators about his beloved geometer. Euclid's first common notion is this: things which are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. That's a rule of mathematical reasoning. It's true because it works, has done, and always will do. In his book, Euclid says this is self-evident. You see, there it is. Even in that 2,000-year-old book of mechanical law, it's a self-evident truth that things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Doty sees Lincoln musing here over the issue of equality on which the war turns. Lincoln is reminding himself, the movie suggests, that the same thing to which both white and black people are equal is their common humanity. Immediately after this, Lincoln dictates a message instructing that the delegation not be admitted into Union territory. The war will continue until the truth of human equality is upheld in Union victory. So, when somebody asks you, why is geometry important? Yes, it's important because it allows us to, from a stonemason's perspective, it's important because it allows us to build buildings that are true and will not collapse and are beautiful, which we'll talk about in a second. It's also important because it can provide a moral framework by which we can better understand the world and make moral decisions, which is how Freemasons, speculative Masons such as myself, would apply it. So once again, going back to just a couple very quick points before I move on to the sacred geometry. Harry Bacharach. Welcome, Harry. Thank you for being here. I don't know what WT7 is, so I'm sorry I can't answer. By the way, I thought I saw something from Courtney about technology in there. Sorry I missed it, Courtney. I was just busy focusing on, I didn't want to lose the train of thought I had when it came to what I was discussing with geometry. So again, well, geometry has been very important for technology, absolutely. So once again, geometry, very simply, is a branch of mathematics concerned with the shape of individual objects, spatial relationships among various objects, and the properties of surrounding space. It's derived from the Greek words meaning earth, measurement, although it could also say it makes moral measurements. The earliest form or example we have of geometry is Euclidean geometry, which is an examination between the lengths, areas, and volumes of physical objects. It was codified in Euclid's Elements in 300 BC on the basis of 5 postulates and 5 norms, 10 axioms, let's call them. This book was so influential that Abraham Lincoln, President Lincoln, carried the Elements with him when he was a lawyer traveling on the circuit court, and appears to have used the first norm, things that are equal to the same thing or equal to each other, to encourage or promote his moral thinking when it came to the questions around, for example, slavery. It is also, Euclid was so influential that in 2023, the European Space Agency launched a satellite into space to study the curvature of the universe, or dark matter in particular of the universe, and named the satellite Euclid after a father of geometry, a Greek geometrician who lived approximately 5,000 years ago. Imagine doing something so vital and so important that you 5,000 years in the future, somebody names something after you. In this case, a spacecraft going into space. It's pretty incredible. When was geometry invented? I mean, again, like geometry, I suppose you could argue geometry was invented when, two guys got together and had to dig a hole for a fire pit and had to study the shape of the circle to make it as convenient as possible. But in terms of like actually formalized, invented, I would say 300 BC with the publication of Euclid's Elements. Because again, that's when it was at least put down, and that was kind of where the start of it was. And again, that's 300 BC. So 300 years ago. So excuse me, a satellite 2,300 years in the past. Or I said 5,000, I don't know why, 300 BC, excuse me. So imagine being so influential that approximately 2,020 or 2,300 years after your death, a satellite is named after you. I think that's pretty cool. So I would say 300 BC was invented with the publication of Euclid's Elements, which have gone on to influence both mathematical thought, scientific thought, and moral thought since that time. And again, from a Masonic perspective, geometry and morality go hand in hand. And you need to understand geometry to better understand morality. Can you create a shape with a finite volume but infinite surface area? I have no idea. That's a really good question, though. I'm not that smart. So from there, you then have advances in different types of geometry, including analytic geometry, the idea of coordinates to locate points and enable lines, projective geometry, differential geometry, and then non-Euclidean geometry, which was formed as a way to substitute alternatives for the parallel postulates. Really, from what I understand, non-Euclidean geometry really refers to geometry on curved spaces or curved surfaces. Sorry, Harry Bacharach, it's how we know the Earth is, in fact, a sphere because of non-Euclidean geometry. For example, if you're on the Earth and you walk, I forget the distance off the top of my head. I think it's like 100 miles, but it could be wrong. In one direction, do a right angle turn, walk the same distance, in that other direction, then make another 90-degree turn and walk back up the way you were coming from at the start. Eventually, you will end up meeting at the same place you started. And you shouldn't, right? If you're walking in that direction, it should be 2 parallel lines, but it's not. They end up meeting. which goes to explain non-Euclidean geometry. But we're getting off topic. All right, so that is geometry, which has, like I said, gone on to influence mathematical thought, scientific thought, and moral thought since 300 BC. Then you get into sacred geometry, right? So you have the idea of geometry as being the study of shapes and the relationship between the spaces. Sacred geometry ascribes symbolic and sacred meanings to certain geometric shapes and certain geometric proportions. So then it's the idea that some of these spaces and shapes are themselves sacred or have symbolic significance to humanity. It goes to this idea of what you see from Plutarch, who attributed this idea to Plato. Plato saying God geometrizes continually. The idea of God geometrizing, meaning God is creating through the use of geometric principles and geometric idea. Johannes Kepler, 1571, believed in the geometric underpinnings of the cosmos. Harvard mathematician expressed a belief in the centrality of geometry in 2010. He said, lest one conclude that geometry is little more than a well-calibrated ruler, and this is not against the ruler, which happens to be a tangent Meyer, geometry is one of the main avenues available for us to probing the universe. Physics and cosmology have been, almost by definition, absolutely crucial for making sense of the universe. Geometry's role in this may be less obvious, but is equally vital. I would go so far as to say that geometry not only deserves at the place alongside physics and cosmology, but in many ways, it is the table. And again, we've talked about it being the table in, for example, the reason why the European Space Agency's mission to study the universe is named Euclid. High school geometry can be the first places you have to justify your answers and work through logical progression. That's a perfect example of that, right? It's not just about knowing something. It's about, can you justify that knowledge? Can you prove that knowledge? And can you work through the logical progression of that knowledge? Which I think is a very, very important point to keep in mind. Harry Backrack, 100, not a sphere. Oh, Harry. Well, I think you and I are just going to have to agree to disagree. I'm still going with the universe. With the Earth is a sphere. The universe might be flat, whatever that means, but the Earth itself, I think, is a sphere. It seems pretty obvious to me, but then again, I don't know everything, so I could very well be wrong. But I don't think I am on this one. I'm going to go with the scientific consensus. And again, geometry is one of the ways we can prove the shape of the Earth, that the Earth is actually round and not a flat circle. Time may be a flat circle if you, like me, enjoy True Detective, but I don't think the Earth is. Douglas Marks, hey, Karen, everything is well. I hope that you are doing well. Also, Douglas, we are talking today about geometry and the value of geometry in our day-to-day lives, right? We were talking initially about geometry. Now we switched over to sacred geometry. So geometry, again, is the study of shapes and the relationship between shapes and the spaces both within and without those spaces and how they all relate to one another. Sacred geometry is the idea that certain types of shapes or certain shapes themselves have symbolic meaning or otherwise are important, have symbolic or even, you could argue, spiritual meaning or sacred meanings. Geometry equals God equals gnosis. That is true. G is very important, although geometry actually means earth measurement in Greek. I guess geoanometry is earth measurement. Well, we found this quote, which I thought was really interesting. This is from Harvard mathematician Xing-Tun Yang in 2010. He said, lest one conclude that geometry is little more than a well-calibrated ruler, and this is no knock against the ruler, which happens to be a technology I admire, geometry is one of the main avenues available to us for probing the universe. Physics and cosmology have been, almost by definition, absolutely crucial for making sense of the universe. Geometry's role in this may be less obvious, but is equally vital. I would go so far as to say that geometry not only deserves a place at the table alongside physics and cosmology, but in many ways it is the table. And in fact, Plato said, according to Plutarch, God geometrizes continually, otherwise known as God creates through geometry continually. We also talked a little bit about how geometry is used not only for scientific understanding, but also for moral understanding, using the example of President Abraham Lincoln, who famously had a book of Euclid's Common Axioms, or Euclid's Elements, I should say, with him. And he read that at night while he was a lawyer. And according to the movie Lincoln, there's this scene where he uses Euclidean geometric principles, particularly the first one, the idea that things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other, as a way to justify continuing to fight for the end of slavery in America. So geometry, as every Mason should know, provides not only scientific advancement and mathematical advancement, but also moral advancement, or at least moral knowledge. Which then, again, does make sense as to why symbolic and sacred meanings would then be applied to geometry and certain geometric shapes and certain geometric proportions. The most famous of these proportions is the golden ratio. Right? In mathematics, two quantities are in a golden ratio if their ratio is the same as the ratio of their sum to the larger qualities, to the two larger quantities. So A plus B over A is equal to A over B. That equals the golden ratio, which is 1.618. So you can create, for example, a golden rectangle with a long side A plus B and a short side A can be divided into two pieces here. Actually, what I'm going to do, just so it's easier for people to see, is share this screen for just 1 second. By the way, if you're just joining us, please don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Also, don't forget you can study of angles or angels. Maybe study of both. You can join us on Patreon, Square and Compass, patreon.com/Square and Compass. But let's share this screen for just 1 second. This is Wikipedia, but it's pretty good. Very well. I'm going to give it a second for it to pop up. Let me know when you guys can see it. Takes a second sometimes for it to come up. There we go. All right. Think we should all be able to see it now. Let me know if you can't. This is the golden ratio or the golden rectangle. As part of, again, so this shape, so geometry is the study of shape. This shape with these proportions is considered to be, in sacred geometry, a sacred or golden ratio. So it's a ratio where the long side A plus B can be divided and a short side A. So again, going back to this, in mathematics, two quantities are in a golden ratio if their ratio is the same as the ratio of the sum to the larger properties. The Greek letter phi represents the golden ratio, which is equal to 1.618. So some of the greatest mathematical minds of all ages, from Pythagoras to Euclid in ancient Greece. Fibonacci, yes, the Fibonacci sequences, right, which goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and that's, I think, as high as I can go off the top of my head. 34, 55, I think, is the next one. After I get past like the 20s, it starts to get pretty tough, right? Some of the greatest mathematical minds of all ages, from Pythagoras and Euclid in ancient Greece through the medieval Italian mathematician Leonardo da Pisa to Johannes Kepler to present-day scientific figures such as Penrose, have spent endless hours over this simple ratio and its properties. Biologists, artists, musicians, historians, architects, psychologists, and even mystics have pondered and debated the basis of its ubiquity and appeal. In fact, it's probably fair to say that the golden ratio has inspired thinkers of all disciplines like no other number in the history of mathematics. Ancient Greek mathematicians first studied the golden ratio because of its frequency, appearance in geometry, the division of a line into extreme and mean ratio, the golden section, is important to the geometry of regular pentagrams and pentagons. According to one story, 5th century BC mathematician Hippasus discovered that the golden ratio was neither a whole number nor its fraction, it's irrational, just like pi, also irrational. Greetings, Spirit. Thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciated. Euclid's Elements provides several postulates, propositions and their proofs employing the golden ratio, and contains the first known definition, which proceeds as follows. A straight line is said to have been cut in an extreme and mean ratio when, as the whole line is to the greater segment, so is the greater segment to the lesser. So what that means is, going back up here, A plus B over A is equal to A over B. Right? A plus B over A is equal to A plus B. So the ratio of the entire line over A is the same as A over B. And that is going to equal 1.618. And Spirit, I hope that you're doing well. Let me know if you answered the poll question, what your thoughts are on geometry as a Mason. What are your thoughts and ideas on it? And anything else that you want to talk about. As always, this is just a chance to hang out. The golden ratio was studied peripherally over the next millennia. Abu Kamil employed in his geometric calculations of pentagons and decagons. His writing influenced that of Fibonacci, who used the ratio in related geometry problems but did not observe this connected to the Fibonacci numbers. Luca Piccoli named his book Divine Proportions after the ratio, a book largely plagiarized by Piero del Della Francesca. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a second. So Kepler said, geometry has two great treasures. One is the theorem of Pythagoras, the other the division of a line into extreme and mean ratio, the golden ratio. The first we may compare to a mass of gold, the second we may call a precious jewel. So I'm not going to go proving the idea that it's irrational. So Fibonacci numbers have an interrelationship with the golden ratio. In the Fibonacci sequence, each term is equal to the sum of the preceding two terms. So again, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89. The sequence, so the golden ratio is equal to the limit of the ratios of successive terms in the Fibonacci sequence. So in other words, if a Fibonacci or a Lucas number even is divided by its immediate predecessor in the sequence, the quotient approximates pi. So the famous, we always see of it, is this picture here, which I'm going to share. We see this shape showing up in nature all the time, which is a really, really cool thing. Spiral galaxies to the inside of flowers. So again, I'm just going to give this a second. Let me know when you guys can see it. Just want to give it one more minute for it to pop up for everybody. If you can't see it, let me know. But I believe it should be up on the screen. There we go. So again, this is the famous Fibonacci sequence. And again, 1 unit here, 1 unit here. You have 2 units here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 here. Then you have 5 units here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically you're adding things up, right? So you have a 0, which is nothing, 1, 1. That leads to 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 plus 1, 3. You have 3 units here. 3 plus 2 equals 5. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 plus 3 equals 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 plus 5, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 plus 8, 21. But you also see, again, this is also a golden ratio. So this here is one example of a golden ratio where this entire line stopping there over this section is the same or equal to this over this. And if you were to take this full line here, you could do the same thing where this full line is equal to the ratio of this full line over this section is the same as this section over this section. So you see the Fibonacci sequence happening there. Does the Fibonacci spiral play a role in the evolution of species? I don't know, actually. I'm curious. That's a really good question. Certainly it shows up in nature a lot. I think in plant species it does, because this sequence is one of the best ways to make sure that if the flowers and plants grow with this sequence in mind, in the spiral shape, they have better access to sunlight. Fibonacci sequence and evolution of species. I'm curious. Yes, so that does make sense to me. This is what I thought. I just did a quick study or a quick Google search. It appears surprisingly often in natural patterns, particularly in plant growth and branching, and it is thought to be maximizing light exposure and efficient packaging of seeds or leaves. I'm going to start sharing tabs. So that's another reason why it makes sense that people would view this and consider this sequence to be an example of sacred geometry, because it has spiritual meaning, at least from an evolutionary perspective. If you're a gardener, you want your plants to grow their seeds or their leaves in this pattern to maximize their ability to attract or absorb sunlight. Yeah, I think for sure it's probably an example of natural selection. So again, going back through this topic, and I think I'm just about finished. I think the key points I want to give for this topic, I kind of go through the cliff notes, but if any point something didn't make sense, or you want me to re-examine it or talk more about it, or you know things I don't know, which is very, very possible, jump in the chat and let me know. But the basics, I would say, is the idea. So geometry being the study of shapes and the relationship between shapes, coming from the Greek word meaning earth measurement. The earliest example of a geometric treaty or geometric ideas being written was Euclid's Elements in 300 BC. Not only did Euclid's Elements provide a foundation for scientific research and study from 300 BC to 2,000 years later, it also provided a moral compass and moral understanding for future generations, including for Abraham Lincoln, who apocryphally at least used Euclid's geometric axioms when approaching the moral problem of how to deal with slavery in America. We know for certain that Abraham Lincoln read Euclid's Elements while he was still a lawyer, traveling around to different cases in America. He was kind of an itinerant lawyer, or a circuit lawyer, I should say. So it's valuable for both scientific and moral thought, as every Freemason should know and should care about. The morality associated with geometry is very important from a Masonic perspective. Sacred geometry takes it a step further and is the idea that certain shapes have special and valuable symbolism to them, either symbolic symbolism or sometimes spiritual, or certainly as a way to understand the universe. Plato famously said God continually geometrizes, and there's even a Nobel Prize professor who basically said geometry is the table on which modern science rests, or geometry is the table on which physics and mathematics rest. And the most famous, perhaps, example of sacred geometry is the golden ratio, or otherwise kind of connected to the Fibonacci sequence, which is, again, a sacred or golden ratio because it is a ratio that not only appears to the eye to be very beautiful when it is put into stone masonry and the building of temples and the building of buildings, and stonemasons needed to know this ratio to incorporate it into, for example, spiral staircases, etc. It is also necessary for example, evolutionary advantage in plants and even in some cases animals. And that is a very rough, quick outline of sacred geometry. And I am very hot right now. I'm going to take this off. So I would hope, more than anything else, what people take away from it is this idea that geometry is valuable not only from a mathematic and scientific perspective, but provides moral lessons as well. And I hope that we can perhaps look at how to apply these moral lessons to, again, as Freemasons, take geometric principles, apply them to our morals, and then apply those morals to our actions in the world at large. Hope that made sense. Let me know if it did or if it didn't. By the way, the answer to the poll question is, what is the origin of the phrase, let no one ignorant geometry enter? The answer is actually engraved at the door of Plato's Academy, or at least traditionally believed to be engraved at the door of Plato's Academy. Whether it was or wasn't, we don't know. We don't have any contemporary sources saying it was, but there is an apocryphal story approximately 700 years later that said it was. But again, it goes to show this idea of geometry as being very important scientifically and morally. Thank you, Core. I appreciate that very much. All right, I am going to end this. So now we're back to the latter part of our, and by the way, this is just a side note. If anybody hasn't watched it yet, you should watch Lincoln. Great movie. I usually don't go for, like I said, my usual movies are scary movies or Hallmark Christmas movies. But every now and then I enjoy historical films, and Lincoln was a great movie. So if you get the chance, watch Lincoln. It's on I actually don't know where it's streaming right now, but it's worth a watch. And let me know if you find it, what you think of that section where Lincoln uses Euclid's first proof to make his decision surrounding slavery. Or in other words, to allow the war to continue so that when it does end, it would end with, it would also end slavery in North America, as opposed to potentially ending the war earlier, but doing so in a way that would result which would result with slavery continuing to exist. I agree, Courtney. I think it 100% could offer. I think it 100% could offer new ways to understand ourselves and our place in the universe, or new ways to understand morality and to answer moral questions. When we are faced with a moral dilemma, how often do we turn to geometry to try to solve it? I'm guessing not very often. Maybe we can change that. Who knows? Interestingly, British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher once said, Europe was created by history, America was created by philosophy. Maybe instead of saying it that way, you could say America was created by geometry. Because both Jefferson and Lincoln, with the exception of maybe George Washington, the two most kind of influential figures in American presidency, and FDR, but those two relied on Euclid and his elements when crafting the Constitution, making decisions about future the Civil War. So maybe in some ways America was also founded by geometry as a type of philosophy. All right, I'm just going to give it a little bit more time, see if anybody else joins us, jumps in the chat to say hello. And we're back to that anything we want to talk about phase of the stream. Again, I'm traveling right now in Winnipeg, so my streams are going to be later than usual. I believe, though, tomorrow I may actually do a stream at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just because I won't be out. Spiritualists use sacred geometry in development and practice. Awesome. We can talk about that. Even though I know you're interviewing me, I hope to keep asking you some questions during our interview, Core, as well. And maybe I'll talk to you about that, because when you say spiritualists use geometry in development and practice, do you mean they use sacred geometry in the sense of better understanding like themselves, or do they use it in as like a moral test in the same way Lincoln did in that example? or even in a more scientific way in the sense of trying to understand the universe. What is the meaning of life, and how do we find purpose in seemingly random universe? Geez, that's a question. 42, to quote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. I think, it's interesting. There was somebody who he was famous. I don't remember the name of the I don't remember the name now of the specialty, but he studied bugs for a living, right? That was what he studied. He studied insect behavior and insect groups and the way they interacted with other insects, et cetera, et cetera. So he was an insect scientist. I can't think of the name now. But he said, insects have discovered the answer to the meaning of life. And the answer is don't ask the question. Which I thought was a very interesting response. I think the meaning of life is hopefully to try to leave the world a better place than how you found it. And how you define better, it's one of those things where it's really hard to actually define. I think at the end of the day, I define better the same way I define pornography. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. I don't always know what is better, what is worse, but I know if somebody's hungry and I get them some food and they're not hungry anymore, that's better. I know if somebody is cold and they have a blanket and they're no longer cold, that's better. And you kind of try to change. You kind of try to figure out as you go. But sometimes I think the answer to what is the meaning of life is don't ask what the meaning of life is. Used as more understanding as well as for ethical, spiritual evolution, physical, and spirit. Okay. Do spiritualists view the spirit as having any kind of shape itself to it in the same way we physically do, or do they view the spirit as being kind of more incorporeal and therefore not tied to one specific shape or one particular part of the body? If you could rewind any point, I don't know if I would. I'd be too nervous about what could happen. I think I'd be very hesitant to go back and change anything because it's that butterfly effect, right? I'd be super, super hesitant to want to make any changes. We're often told you can do anything you put your mind to, but if you really actually could, how would you prioritize? Like, how would I prioritize doing anything? I mean, I don't know if I would prioritize. Like, it'd be tough to prioritize because I mean, I would obviously try to make sure that first of all, I'm relatively healthy and well, and then because I would know that I'd be okay, I would try to prioritize helping others as much as I potentially could. Sacred geometry makes the things in the spirit world physical, if that makes sense. Sure, it makes sense. That's a great answer. Thank you so much. I do truly appreciate that. Maybe you could even argue Euclid was in and of himself kind of a founding father. Nice t-shirt. Thank you. I just got this today from my dad. He got it, but it was too big for him, so I got it instead. Feels very Hawaiian. I feel like I'm on that show at 2.5 Men, where because these are the type of shirts that I can't think of the name of the character now, or the name of the actor for that matter, that Charlie Sheen's character would always wear. And how'd your recording go, High Altitude Investing? Let me know how the recording went. And where we can check it out. Good. Was it a high altitude investing recording, or was it a Wisdom in Christ Foundation recording? Will be posted on my high altitude channel later today. Awesome. I have a meeting tonight, but maybe if I get lucky, I can check it out when I come back. And I would encourage everybody else. You can see him right there, How to Investing. You can subscribe to his channel or channels, and check out his work. Got to think about tomorrow on what my stream topic will be, because Thursday I probably can't do a stream. And Friday, I don't think I can do a stream, but Friday I may do a very brief live stream, or even a YouTube short. Maybe finally take advantage of my 3-minute YouTube short and do a short from Glenview. Once again, I will be traveling to the States this weekend to take part in a bunch of Masonic activities, all of which I'm excited for. I've said it a bunch of times, but I know a lot of people in Canada right now are saying they're not going to travel to the States. I'm not going to be one of those. I'm a little bit nervous about traveling to the States because I have heard some scary stories lately, but to my mind, it's still worth traveling there to see my friends. And if it becomes a hassle, then I will sort it out, because at the end of the day, I always do. And like I said, I love my American brothers too much not to go over and travel there. Spirit of justice, I got to wash my apron. You guys wash your aprons? As a general rule here in Canada, we're oftentimes told not to wash our aprons. Because if you think about it symbolically, right, a dirty apron was a sign of hard work. From like a operative Mason's perspective. So oftentimes we don't wash our aprons, but in fairness, also our aprons are a little bit different than your aprons that you have there in the States, depending on the jurisdiction, all that jazz. We have the solid white ones for the first degree exclusively, and then it switches. And ours oftentimes have blue borders around them, and they're much more colorful. We replace a lot of points on time, more points than I'd like sometimes, but remove some of those markers of time, and what are you left with? That's what they say about martial arts belts. Yeah, I've never heard it. I don't know if it's actually a rule written anywhere, but early on in my Masonic career, I was told by somebody, never wash your apron, which but I have heard of Masons doing that. As a rule, though, my rule is I don't wash my apron. So that's my rule. Even like if I spill something on it, I may, like, I'll wipe it. If I spill a coffee on it, I'll wipe it quickly before the stain sets. But Needle has just joined. Welcome, Needle. Yes, I will wipe. But that's as far as it goes. Welcome, Needle. I hope that you are doing well. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everybody who has been here on this stream. It's been going great, so I really, really appreciate everybody being here. Mine only gets dust. Yeah, you can do that. I guess it depends. It depends on how you're defining washing. And again, for our aprons, 3rd degree and up, they're not. They have tassels on them. They have parts on them, so you really couldn't wash them, anyways. But just giving it a quick wipe or a quick shake, that stuff is okay. Especially for me, because I'm such a klutz that if I never did anything, it'd just be stains galore. If you're just joining us, by the way, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. We were talking about sacred geometry today. I'm trying to think what my stream content tomorrow will be. Once I know, I will let you guys know. It's great to have 11 people joining us today. Thank you so much. for everybody who's been here. As always, don't forget, hit the like button and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget, you can also follow my other channel. Give me 1 second. What I'm going to do is share the link so you guys can find it. Where I usually do weekend midnight movie showcases. I just watch a movie and hang out with people, as well as when I can, I try to just do videos of my trips on the road. My favorite view in the whole wide world is from a airplane seat or a bus seat or a train, basically from the window of a vehicle moving from point A to point B. It's my favorite view in the world, and when I can, I like to share those views because I think they can be really beautiful. All right, here we go. This is my personal channel. If you get the chance, jump over here, click on this, hit like and subscribe, or just hit subscribe on that channel. And maybe this weekend, hang out with me if I do another midnight movie showing. I was suggested yesterday Ender's Game as a movie to watch, which I've never seen it before, but it's 100% now on my list. I always appreciate when I get movie suggestions. One thing I was thinking of doing at some point is watching this movie or this TV show called Sleepy Hollow, not the movie, the TV show, because the Freemasons do make 2 appearances in that show, at least that I saw so far. It's really cool. They're kind of portrayed as the good guys, which is nice. So I may see if I can't watch them and do a watch along with that. Oh, so Dad has never washed his apron. So Dad is on the same side as me. Yeah, I was told never wash your apron. Again, if it gets dust or a stain on it, I might do a quick wipe, but I'll never put it in like a washing machine or even use any type of soap on it or anything like that. So Spirit, are you in martial arts? I'm guessing you are with when you mentioned their martial arts belts. And everybody who's just joining us, please hit that like and subscribe button. Okay, what type of martial arts? Karate, Kung Fu, Taekwondo. With professional wrestling side of it, every now and then I tried to get into MMA and stuff just to learn some new skills. I've actually done even some training in Glenview in the past, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, I have great respect for martial artists. Certainly, there's a lot of skills that you could take from martial arts and apply them to Masonic teachings as well, right? With everything in life, I think if you love it, you can find a way to apply it to different things. But I do really enjoy, when I can, MMA training. Again, it's a good break from wrestling training, but still the skills are themselves. The skills for themselves are transferable between MMA and professional wrestling. Black belt, I don't know what Shotokan is. Taekwondo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and starting Wing Chun soon. Okay, I've done Wing Chun training a couple times at in Glenview, Illinois. So, because it's the gym, the dojo is right next to the hotel I always stay at, or really close to the hotel I always stay at. But I never ended up. Every time I go back, I want to go. It's just I always have a Masonic meeting when I'm there, so I never have time to take part in the training, especially because their training is always in the evening, and I'm there during the day I'm free, but in the evening I have to go to Skokie or Glenview or wherever it is I'm going to. I fought pro MMA back in the day too. Awesome. Congratulations. That's got to make you a very, very tough son of a gun. So good for you. Yeah, I know there's a few professional wrestlers who are Masons. I don't know off the top of my head about any MMA fighters who are Masons as well, but it'd be really fun to learn more about that and check that out and maybe see if I could find one to do an interview with. I think that'd be a blast. And if you're just joining us, by the way, please hit like and subscribe. Let me know how you're doing, what it is that you guys want to chat about. I'll do this for another probably 20 minutes or so because then I do have to get ready for my meetings tonight, my double first degree. Who pro wrestlers are? Damian Sandow from the WWE, Aaron Neville. He is a Mason and fairly active. And he actually did a cameo for Border Cities Lodge where he welcomed us all as Masons, which is really cool. This guy called King Cobra, who was a Mason out of Paducah, Kentucky, and also a pro wrestler out of Paducah, Kentucky in the 50s and 60s. I actually posted something about him on social media and a couple others that I can think of. I don't want to mention them because I don't know if they've, I don't want to tell people who are Masons if they haven't told people or made it public. But yeah, so at least a couple. Give it a few more minutes. Let's see if anybody else jumps on. By the way, Courtney, I saw your message. Have fun, but stay warm. Always something you need to say when you're traveling to Winnipeg. Although having said that, the weather has actually been pretty nice the last couple of days, so I can't complain too much about the weather. As in Manitoba, Canada. Oh, Courtney, how can we improve access to clean water in rural communities? Sorry, missed it, Courtney. I don't know. I mean, I know in Michigan for years there was issues getting clean water. I don't know if they've ever solved it. I haven't heard about it for a while, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they solved the problem, in fairness. I mean, from a Masonic perspective, other than charitable donations of like bottled water or potentially charitable donations to water treatment projects, I don't really know. But I'm not totally sure. Sorry, Spirit. I think I missed one before that. But if you know of any MMA fighters who are Masons who have told people that they're Masons, like publicly, let me know because I would love to know about it myself and maybe get them on the podcast. It would be fun. Well, I mean, I think if you're a rural lodge, hopefully you have access to clean water. I'd hate it if if you're struggling with whatever you're struggling with, and on top of that, you're struggling with not having access to clean water. That would be really, really challenging. By the way, there's some more plays and stuff happening at the Windsor Masonic Temple ballroom, so make sure that you check those out when you can. If you live in Windsor, Detroit, heck, even if you live in like Chatham or even up to London, it's just 2 hours, and it's a really great it's a really great night out. Relatively cheap. Tickets aren't expensive at all, and it's a lot of fun. So please, if you get the chance, check us out. I'm going to give it another, let's say, 5 minutes, and then I will be ending this stream. I will be back tomorrow. Maybe I'll try to actually be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, back to my usual time for a stream. I will have to, like I said, tomorrow I'm traveling back to Windsor and then Chicago. So Thursday, Friday streams are going to be a little bit different, but I'll see what I can do. And it does look like the Grand Lodge of Tennessee is having their annual communication right now. So awesome in Tennessee. I've had a chance to be at the Grand Lodge of Tennessee building a few times. Always loved it. So yeah, that is a really going to be a really fun couple of days. But all right, I think we're going to end this stream. Thank you to everybody who took part. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about sacred geometry. Tomorrow, you can find me potentially 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, thank you guys so much. Sorry, Courtney, I'll have to get to your question tomorrow, but it's a good question, and maybe it might be worth making it our conversation. All right, see you guys later. And thank you once again for being a part of it.